Welcome to the Got Money and Sex podcast. My name is Raul Villacis. I'm here with a beautiful queen.
Yes, my name is Vivian Velasquez and happy to be here.
Man, today we have an exciting podcast because we're going to be reviewing the movie Sound of Freedom.
This is Vivian Velasquez.
And this is Raul Villacis.
Welcome to the podcast.
If you haven't watched the movie, I recommend that you go there this weekend, that you do whatever it takes to watch this movie, because this movie is going to touch your soul. We actually tried to watch this movie over the weekend, but we didn't get in.
It was definitely a challenge to get there and to watch it, but it was worth it. And I think, I'm really not a movie person, but then there's just movies that come along when it's like, it's not just because of the movie, but it's the awareness that it brings. And it's not a movie that I would say like I would definitely sign up for it, because it's to me, movies like this, they're made with such an impact that it's so hard to just watch it and not do something about it. So it's definitely one of those movies that you got to get there and watch it, and not only watch it, but just bring this awareness and bring the support and bring like the little bit of whatever it is that you have.
So we wanted to watch it the weekend. It was sold out, and every theater wanted to go. You don't want to sit on the first or second row.
I don't like to sit. Well, I'm the type of person, like, if I'm going to go to the movie, might as well make it right.
So I found the perfect seats. I found the time that we could go, and I told Vivian, I said, you know what, we're gonna go. I booked it already.
Oh, yeah.
We're set, and we get in the car, we go to the movie theater, and then I get to the box office and they can't find my ticket. They can't find my ticket. I'm going through. It's like, I just bought it. I know that it's maxed out, and everybody wants to watch this movie, but going a little bit deeper, I didn't click the next page. I thought I bought it. But I didn't complete the order, so we ended up not watching the movie that day, and we said, you know what, let's go watch Indiana Jones. We're here already. I was already pissed. I didn't want to make it into a bad day, so we just adapt, adjust, and we execute it.
That's right.
But that wasn't a bad movie. But Indiana Jones was okay.
I mean, it's okay. But you were determined to watch.
I was determined.
The movie.
I even went back into the movie theater to see if somebody was sitting on the seats that I got,
just in case
it was me. That I made the mistake of buying it. But I couldn't find my tickets. But I didn't.
The apps don't make the mistake.
I didn't buy it. So the next day, I said we're gonna get to the movie theater. We got the tickets. We went. We took our son to watch it.
My mother-in-law.
Your mother-in-law. And it was such an impactful movie. It's such an impactful movie. So let's kind of review this. And you and I were talking in the car as we were coming to this podcast. And if you have kids. If you, even if you don't have kids and you're around kids, you have to watch this movie because it talks about a problem that we have right now that is worldwide, which is sex trafficking, using kids as sex slaves. And for me, like, the first reaction that I got from the movie, because the first 10 minutes of the movie, you're going to be impacted. Like, the first 10 minutes is no, like,
you're like at the edge of your seat.
You're at the edge of your seat because the movie just brings out that world. And when you start looking at the world that we live in, and we're blessed that we live in America, but in everywhere you go, like, there is so much despair. And I think that's what this film triggered on me, was anger. Anger. That was the first thing. And I was angry, man. When I started watching the movie, the first thing is like, how come men do this? How can we live in a world that has such evil? How can we live in a world that we still, with all the resources that we have, we're still dealing with this? Mm-hmm. What was your first reaction to the movie?
It's like an emotional roller coaster. You just start to feel all this. Like, for me, it was just, disgust, first of all, and anger and sadness, and just, then I started to think of like, wow, like, I know that this movie is based on a real story. So then that every time, like, I kept seeing the movie, it took even like a deeper toll in my heart. And then I kept thinking, like, I'm just in awe that, or in shock, I would say, that it's only a small person association that's doing this to bring awareness. because it was that guy. What's his name?
The story is about Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard was an FBI operative
for many years
that gave up his job to do this to save kids. And the actor who played Passion of Christ, Jim Caviezel, I think I'm saying his last name right. He did an amazing job portraying that character. This guy was amazing. Like I was in tears, man, half of the movie because I was like feeling bad for the kids, feeling bad for the situation, and you see like the emotion of anger was coming from like, man, how come we still deal with this with all, we haven't gone to the extreme to solve this problem. This is an ongoing problem that is not being talked about enough. And the statistics showed in the movie that 20 million new pictures have been uploaded, like a 5,000 increase in child pornography right now in the internet. Right. So all this stuff that we're seeing right now is just like right now, people are just, they're not stopping. There's more demand for child pornography. There's more demand for sex trafficking than ever. And there's 2 million kids every single year that are being abused.
Yeah. To be honest, like when I was watching the movie, it was just, again, like just, you're just so shocked and so taken with the statistics of things. And then you could go, both ways. I think in the society that we live in, right, in this world that we live in, we could choose to not do something about it just because we feel like, okay, well, what am I going to do about all these things? Or someone like, what's his name? Jim
Caviezel.
No, the other guy.
Tim Ballard.
Tim Ballard. Like someone like him that actually, just gives up everything to make a change in like a little boy's life or a little girl's life, because that's how it started. This little girl that he's just so determined to save her. And like that just speaks so much about who he is as a person and what we could do as I guess, like as a community, right? Like if you start to do a little bit at a time, like how we could bring awareness of like how can we save a child.
So the movie starts with, there's no spoilers. I mean, you watch the movie. This is the first 10 minutes. You go there and there's a father with kids, and they go into, there's a model that talks to the father saying, hey, your kids are beautiful. We could get them to a model agency. So it tricks the dad into believing that there's talent, right? And it's a third world country. This is in Honduras, I believe. So they take him into this room in an office, and they start taking pictures, and they tell the dad he can't come into the room. So the dad leaves, and when he comes back to pick up the kids, they're gone. So I just put myself in his shoes, like, man, I will turn the whole city upside down to find my kids, but this people can't do anything. The cops don't give a shit. People don't give a shit. So all he could do is just go back home empty-handed. Meanwhile, his kids are being shipped to Colombia, and
in an instant,
and it shows in the, I don't know if you remember at the beginning of the movie, it shows how real life footage of people picking up kids from the street, picking up kids from the corner. Like this is stuff that we have to pay attention, because all this stuff right now that's going on, that we gotta protect our kids. We gotta be more open and aware of our surroundings when we're out with our kids.
Yeah, and that's something like, I guess because of everything that is happening in like a third world country, there's such scarcity that they're just willing to do anything and everything. And that kind of shows you like where this industry is just getting out of hand. Like, like you said, like real live images of people just yanking and taking kids out of like a playground, or out of, there was a lady sleeping in the subway station, obviously like she was homeless or something. And this man just comes over and yanks the baby out of her hands, and it's like these things truly are happening nowadays. And I know for me, like my mom, every time I go out with my kids, and my kids are older, but she's always said this to me, like, keep your eyes, both hands on your kids, don't let them out of your sight, don't, like all these things, because it's like we can't be naive to these things that are happening in the world, especially now.
Yeah, more than ever. Not more than ever. Like you gotta be alert. If you have young kids, you gotta be alert, because
young kids
there's
even
perverts
boys,
everywhere. There's
girls.
danger everywhere. So we have to train the kids not to fall into that trap. I think that the tipping point for Tim Ballard in the movie is when he realizes that he's catching these predators. He's catching this child pornography. The guys who consume child pornography is catching these pedophiles, but he's leaving out the kid. Like he's not saving the kids. So
Right.
the moment that he starts to realize that, man, I need to do something for the kids. I need to find these kids. And the kids are not here. The kids are in third world countries. And then he goes into a mission in
To get
Colombia
them
to
out.
actually save a little girl that happens to be the sister or the brother that he found at the beginning. It's a crazy story that's going to shake your soul. That is so real. It hits home so much because we all can relate to having kids, to be around kids, and we want to protect our
Just
kids.
being human. Like, I think, just having that human, like, how dare you? How can someone really violate and take their innocence away just because of, this lust that these men are going through? Like, it's just, it's horrific, but it's something that we really need to bring awareness to. And at the end, it was a beautiful message. Well, maybe won't get to the end just yet, but that's also something that I learned from this movie. It's like, what can we do? What can we do?
Well, the first thing is you have to get angry. Like, if I love when I see movies like this that impact you so much that I couldn't sleep that night. I know Tim Ballard. We talked before, and I should donate it to his
nonprofit organization.
nonprofit. I met him a couple years ago in a conference. My son went with me.
Is it
he's Operations Underground Railroad. And we've donated to his organization. I believe that he's doing amazing work. But you have to get angry about this. I remember the first time I heard about this a couple of years ago, when I was angry. I wanted to do something, and I donated to the organization. But now after watching this, it's like I couldn't sleep. It's like you have to get angry, because once you get angry about a situation, then you could do something. It's like we cannot tolerate this anymore in our lives. We cannot tolerate it. And I talked to my in our mastermind group. I talked to the man. It's like it's on us. Leaders have to stand up. Like, the problem right now, it's most of the people who are consuming this are men. Right. And I don't hear about women going to Colombia trying to sleep with little boys. It's men who are going to different countries trying to sleep with little girls, trying to sleep with little boys. It's the men who have this fucked up worldview that they're not satisfied. They're not satisfied for what they got, so they have to look for something more. And there's always more, and there's always more. And that feeling of wanting something that's taboo, it's what gets this industry to go up every single time, because they're looking for the high. It's like drugs are not enough, women are not enough. Now they want to be with kids. Now they want to be with young kids. So we got to look at this as the problem that we have right now is the values that we're inserting in our kids. The conversation, we're tolerating lowering our standards, and this is the product of us tolerating lower standards. This is the product of not having the conversations. And most of these guys, I'm assuming, I don't know any of these predators, but I'm assuming, watching some interviews, sexless marriages, they can't get they can't get off with a woman anymore, or they're not satisfied. So they have, they're sick individuals in the head, because they were not brought up to have real relationships. Right. They were not brought up to have a normal relationship with a family, with a woman.
And then also, like, especially in the country, in the world that we live in, all this stuff becomes so accessible that like you're saying, like, okay, you having a relationship between a man and a woman, and then when that's not enough, then you start to look for other things that find that pleasure, and we get out of this like realm of things that we want in like our sexual appetite. And in this movie was just like it was just way too much. Like, for me, I literally felt like throwing up. Like I kept like trying to like calm myself, and I was just like off like edgy. Like I can't even describe like what I was feeling. But then I kept like thinking like how, like, I'm like, just like, God, like, how is it that it's gotten so out of hand, right? And then I kept thinking like back to like Bible verses that we used to read with Veronica, how she used to tell us like how, Sodom and Gomorrah, like all this sexual incense and all these things that happen. It's like it happens all over again. So it's like what happened in the past and God came and cleaned up. Then it's like, oh, now we're living this lives again. Like, we're living the stories that we read from the Bible of just men being so sick in their mind that there was no fear.
That's
fear.
what I was going to get to the point. They have no fear. They don't fear God. They don't fear.
They just take anything like it belongs to them.
They think there's going to be no consequences.
Right.
And that's what the dangerous part is, that we have taken God out of the equation. There's no more fear of God.
Completely.
And in the movie, there's a part that there was an ex-drug dealer that he said he was in that world. He was sleeping with kids, with women. And then all of a sudden he wanted to kill himself. And then God said to him, no, like, you got to fix this. You are the darkness. You are the darkness. So he started using him to save kids. You know, and then Tim Ballard said at that moment, like, when you don't listen to the voice of God that's speaking to you, that's the dangerous part.
Right. And that's the fear that this men have lost. And I'm just saying men because this is the statistics. Like, men are the ones that are really looking for this stuff, like this sexual lust that they carry within them, that there is no fear, like you said, of the consequences. When they have to go and answer to God, it's like, how do you live with yourself when you go through this stuff? How do you live with yourself when you actually take part of this heinous stuff?
You know, and the first part is being angry. The second one is feeling sad. You know, you feel sad. You feel bad for the kids. You feel bad for the parents. You feel bad for anybody that will go through this, that's going through this, and those are the emotions you have to go through. The first is you feel angry about the situation, then you feel sad, but then you start feeling, okay, what's the hope? You know, what can I learn from this? What can I take from this? And that's when I turn around and look at how Tim Ballard used that energy of being angry, and I'm sure that's what fueled him and saying, no, fuck this, I'm going to go and help these kids, I'm going to save these kids, and that's what drove him to put his life in danger. And that's what drives him every single day to continue to speak. Even right now, like the media is talking about it. This is a QAnon movie, this is a right-wing conspiracy, all the bullshit, when the reality is they're trying to make this into a political movie, when the reality is there's no politics. It's wrong.
Yeah.
It's like nobody in the right mind is going to believe that this is something that you could justify. Like, if you're in the right mind, this is real, this is happening,
right.
This is wrong.
Right.
We got to figure out a way to end this, because there is not going to be no future for our kids.
I know. I don't even know what to say. Like, I keep thinking back on the movie, and it's like I'm still in this phase, like you're saying, love, just anger. Just so much anger.
So you have anger, you have sadness, but then what you do with those emotions is what counts. It's what you do. So then I had to process that, and I told my son yesterday when I woke up, I was angry. I feel like I wanted to fucking join Tim, like go into a mission and just shoot a couple of these motherfuckers, because that's what they deserve. They deserve to die. They deserve a death penalty. They deserve to be punished. Anybody who even thinks about that deserves to go to hell, right? So that was the first reaction.
They probably will if there is a hell.
But then I started okay, what can I do? So getting more involved, that's what we're doing this podcast, to bring more awareness about this, like not to shy away from your beliefs, not to shy away from what you stand for, not to shy away from not talking about this. Yes, it's an uncomfortable conversation. Like, this is not a movie that you're gonna leave out of the theater feeling inspired, feeling uplifted, feeling like, oh wow, like that was. It's not even entertaining, because it's dark.
Yeah.
It punches you in the face. It's gonna touch your soul. But after
lingers.
watching this, it's gonna wake you up. It's gonna help you see. You know what? If one man could make a difference, if this guy was able to save 50, 60 kids, like, how can we help? By donating, by bringing more awareness, by us having this conversation, even talking about God, and sex. And I think a lot of these people, all these men who go to this dark place, because they don't have a healthy sexual relationship. They might be in sexless marriages. They might, not have a good relationship. Maybe they never were in a good relationship. So education, talk to our kids about sex. Talk to them about what does it mean to have a healthy relationship with sex.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just learning from porn. You learn from all this, dark shit that's out there, and you think that that's what it is.
And that's kind of like we were talking about, like, how do we, you and I have been talking from a place of truth of all the stuff that we've gone through, right? And then the reason why we have like God, money, and sex is because that's like our guiding force. So like you're saying that about men and the sexless marriages, like there is no excuse. There is no excuse at all, like, for you to have a conversation in your marriage about the things that you want. And I was telling you, like, how we as human beings, like we're never satisfied with what's in front of us. We always want more, and that's where the lust comes in, right? And if also we don't allow ourselves permission to have these conversations even in our marriages, then like this is what we see, like the consequences, like the domino effect of how because there's such a demand. All these men are out there because it had to start somewhere. So how is it that we educate ourselves to have this conversations within our marriage, within our sexual desire of like what is healthy?
Yeah.
What is healthy within the realms of like what God created? And why do we feel that we have to step out of this realm of more? Because there are boundaries, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. It's just so much that
It's because there's not enough people talking about helping, like the situation, right? And it starts with the youth. It starts with talking to the young people of what is it like to have a marriage. What's it like to have a partnership, a sexual partner that is with you, and is not going to just drive you to things that is going to be out of your values. And I think that's what you said. It's like it's never enough, right? So you're never satisfied, and everything right now is so easy that if you want to be with a girl, you can be with a girl. You want to be with a man, you can be with a man. You want to be with both, you can be with both. So it's so accessible right now. Okay, that's not enough. So let me go to something that I cannot get, and that's where the problem that we have right now. That we're stretching the limits so much to the point that,
and everybody's okay with it. And that's kind of like the part was like, how have we turned our eyes to these things? How have we been like, okay, it's okay to do X, Y, and Z? Like, no, it's not okay. Like what is happening in the world right now is not okay. What this movie just showed us, like, it is not okay. So again, like, how is it that we bring awareness? And by we, I mean all of us. Like, how do we bring awareness into your own household? Because I think that's the only place that we could start. Is like, first you start with you bring awareness to like, okay, your own sexuality, desires, whatever it is, like insecurities. Have those conversations with your kids, even with like, people that that you come in contact with. It's funny because we had this conversation with the women a couple of weeks ago, and she said to me, she was like, Vivian, I have never ever had a conversation about sexual experiences with anyone, and I told her, I'm like, yeah, isn't that crazy how like we live in this country that has such freedom of speech, yet we're speaking out on different things, our sexual preferences, but we don't really take the initiative to have conversations within our household.
It's crazy that you say that, because right now we are living in a society where everything is so open, right? Like we have flags and identification for everybody, but yet
you can't have
we cannot have a conversation about like in a marriage about sex because it's too taboo. Like that was one of the mandatory things that I tell my clients, like you need to have a sex date, you need to schedule your sex night, you need to make sure that you have a healthy relationship with sex, because that's the foundation.
Right. When it's healthy, then it's like you feel like you're balanced, right? And then when it's unhealthy is when you start to look for other things that you're really pushing boundaries that are not healthy. And again, that for us, like this is because we believe in God, like we have that fear. So this world is in a place where there is no fear for what God has to say about these things.
So you're going to watch this movie, you're going to feel those emotions. You're going to feel angry about the situation, because you should feel angry for where we are. You should feel angry for all these men who are doing those evil things. And if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. The second is you're going to feel sad. You're going to feel empathy for these kids. You're going to feel empathy for these families. But then at the end, you're probably going to listen to the message of hope, the message of that you can make a difference, that people can make a difference. The more we talk about this, the more that we stand for something, the more that we start to protect our kids more, and then we stand for our values, and we don't shy away from God or shy away from having a marriage and talking about what a good marriage is, talking about what good relationships are. That's how we play our part. That's how we protect our kids. That's how we take a stand, and we don't fall into the darkness. We don't fall into buying this and saying, you know what, that's not our problem.
Right.
Because guess what? It is our problem. America is the number one consumer for child pornography. America is the one consumer for pedophiles. America is the one that is sex trafficking. So now it is here. We are the country that is consuming all this. So the fastest way that we could have these open conversations with our kids, with our spouses, with the people that we surround ourselves with, the more that we're going to start realizing that, okay, let's be part of the solution as opposed to being part of the problem or ignoring it. Because after watching this movie, you're not going to be able to ignore it. You're not going to be able to see kids in a different way. Now every kid that I see is like making sure it's protected, making sure that they're safe. Because you have to get angry about the situation. You have to use that energy to do something about it.
Yeah, I agree. Have the conversations in your household. I would also say if you feel called to make a donation to the
Operations Underground Railroads, it's a great organization. Definitely, we'll put the links in this video as well.
Yeah, it's someone that's been doing the work for so many years. Someone that's dedicated his whole life, and will continue to dedicate his life. So it's really a man to be honored. And I would say just know that you could be the solution, even if it's a little pellet that can make a big ripple effect on how we change all of this for children, for families. It really starts with your family. Like, you have no idea like how groundbreaking that is when like your family is in a healthy, loving place where you are guiding that whole nucleus of like just how it affects someone else that needs to hear that needs to see that. Because maybe there's people that are out there that are so sick, that are so just like inside, like they never had someone to look up to. They never had the voice of God. No one told them about what's possible. So if it's you, like how you can make that change. I feel like that's the way that we can make the change.
And the answer to this is men being leaders, men standing up for what they believe in, men taking on this battle and saying, you know what, I'm going to stand for my family. I'm gonna talk to my family. I'm gonna make sure I insert values into my family that I believe in, that you don't get caught up with all the shit that's going on right now in the world and get confused and become confused. No, now more than ever, like men have to become men. Men have to take a stand to lead their family. Men have to realize it's up to you. If something is going on in your family, it's your responsibility. You are the protector, you're the provider, and it's on you. And the moment that God comes and he's gonna ask you, what did you do for my children? Because God's children are not for sale. God's children are not for sale. That's the message from this movie. And we all need to protect our children. We all need to protect the people around us, because as a man, as a provider, as a protector, it's your job, it's your duty to level the fuck up and lead. Yeah. So that's our take on this movie. Go watch this movie. Make sure you share this message with somebody and don't get caught up on the political side of it. Don't get caught up on all the stuff that's going on. Focus on the problem. Bring awareness to the problem and focus on the solution. Mm-hmm. There's zero upside of blaming, zero upside of making this into a political view. All the upside is for us bringing awareness and focusing on the solution. What can we do to be able to bring a solution to this?
That's right.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for connecting with us. We'll see you next time. Learn it.
Live it. Experience it. Love life.
If you receive any value from this conversation, comment, subscribe, and share as we continue to impact more people and take them to the next level.
And please send us your comments and questions so we could answer them in the next podcast.
See you in the next episode.